Welcome to this talk on cannabis psychedelics. I want to start by asking the question, why would you use cannabis as a psychedelic? It's because 43% of Australians will experience a mental disorder in a lifetime, with 1 in 6 who are currently prescribed antidepressant medications. 9 Australians lose a life by suicide every single day. We are right now treating the symptoms of a profound disconnection, and we cannot medicate our way back to the source. So, what if the world's most misunderstood plant is actually the ultimate somatic regulator? Most people know cannabis for something where you check out, you get numb, unpredictable, foggy, maybe stigmatized in many other ways too. But this same plant can be used to check in, to do somatic processing with a highly intentional and clear and vibrant experience that is completely legal today in Australia. What you're going to learn on this talk is about the formula of how to use cannabis as a psychedelic and how cannabis psychedelics actually have changed lives today, what an experience looks like, and of course we'll be going into the legality and safety. So this is the cannabis psychedelics protocol. It starts clearly with preparation, which is this talk today, the first time you're introduced to the idea of using cannabis as a psychedelic. It moves through mindset, how you think about things, the setting where you're based, the actual experience is the meat of the matter, of course, and then grounding and integration. This is the magic of what you're going to learn today. But why learn from me? I've been working with hemp and cannabis for 3 decades. I work as a government and global advisor. I've pioneered a whole bunch of hemp products, hemp industries around the world, everywhere from Europe, Americas, Africa, Australia, and Asia. And I've worked with psychedelics in education and creation of protocol planning for psilocybin and more. My personal experience, though, started off when I was very young, as a 19-year-old explorer in Thailand, reading people like Terence McKenna, Alexandra Shulgin, and the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Thailand was also a place where I had one of my first negative experiences with LSD, showing me the power and the danger of these products. I haven't just been working with psychedelics and corporate advisory forever. I created the first hemp ice cream and promoted that in the United Kingdom. This is me here having fun as a young 20-something in the United Kingdom. I've also listed more recently businesses on the ASX that I built to $500 million. I've worked with the First Lady of Japan. I've presented on the Tokyo stage. I've put advertising campaigns on the London Underground, Times Square, and far more. I've also written 15 books on hemp and cannabis. But really, my teacher, my ally, my boss, my friend is the plant spirit, cannabis sativa. So who is this cannabis sativa that we talk about? Well, let's start off with some history. There is a lot of modern stigma around cannabis. You've probably heard about the war on drugs. The petrochemical industry, textile industry, timber industry, and media industry were all against this one plant that could threaten them all. And this didn't just happen in the United States, which is at the forefront of this modern stigma that we realize today, because around the world, cannabis has been used for very important things. In fact, the world was run on cannabis, where before vehicles and planes, ships and the sails, which were made of hemp, and the rigging made of hemp, was critical for world trade. 11 convict ships arrived in 1788 carrying hemp seeds to Australia. So even Australia, at the very beginning of its history, had some connection with hemp. But really, in all the history, it's the Romans that give me the most glee, because they created cannabis psychedelic experiences before anybody else. They literally used to sit around under their columns burning cannabis in the center of the room rather than trees, and they found that to be very highly supportive of creative communication. So hemp, cannabis, the earth's most persecuted commodity for the last 100 years, has actually been an integral part of our world for far longer than that. In fact, as far back as history records go, from everywhere from Egyptian times onwards. The legal and botanical distinction between hemp and cannabis varies around the world, but in general, hemp is the low THC industrial hemp plant, and cannabis is the high THC resinous flower focused plant. Really, they are both cannabis sativa, which is the Latin name for exactly the same plant, just being distinguished between the THC or delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol content. Hemp or cannabis has many different uses. The one plant may be used from the roots to the stems to the leaves to the flowering tops and more. It can be used to create textiles, foods, bioplastics, skincare products, building products, animal bedding products. Out of all the uses, the most interesting for me and what got me started in the industry was hemp as a food. And in fact, did you know that 60% of the human brain is made of omega-3 and omega-6 essential fatty acids? Generally 30% of each. So the brain knows that essential fatty acids are critical, and hemp seeds are one of the best plant sources of essential fatty acids. Hemp has only been legal as a food since 2017, though I created Hemp Foods Australia in 1999. So that's nearly 18 years before I could celebrate like this by throwing 10 Eyewitness News. And now things are different, with hemp being grown throughout. This is hemp being grown in Victoria, southern Australia, where we grow hemp in 500-acre fields. Australia. In fact, cannabis was first to become legal in Australia in February 2016. Hemp foods followed the following year, and psilocybin and MDMA in 2023, and with ketamine around the same time. Hemp or medical cannabis is now fully compliant and fully supportive in Australia. So what is the difference between cannabis as a psychedelic and other classical psychedelics? Well, cannabis really allows, and the main difference is the agency that you have when having a cannabis psychedelic experience. You can dial up or down the experience, whereas traditional psychedelics last a little bit longer, and you get on the ride and you get off the ride. There is no pause in between. It is truly like a roller coaster. And in terms of costing, well, cannabis costs are significantly less when used legally compared to psilocybin and MDMA therapies, and because it takes a lot less time and requires much less oversight from psychiatrists and psychologists. They both, though, work on the same receptors. So let's go on to some science to discuss that. First of all, the benefits of cannabis from the TGA's perspective can include chronic pain, multiple sclerosis support, cancer symptom support, epilepsy, anxiety, sleep, PTSD, appetite stimulation, and much more. Now, these are the benefits of cannabis according to the TGA, but they don't actually focus on the pure mental health focus. Before we go into that, here's the original news report on CBD, which is one of the molecules.
Let's talk about marijuana and your brain. It's a rather complicated process, so let's start off with what's familiar to you. THC. THC is the chemical in weed that gets you high. You feel lightheaded, feel giddy, sometimes relaxed. Marijuana, you can smoke it, you can eat it in an extract of food, you can inhale it with a vapor pen, or consume it in an oil form. It's especially good for little kids who are taking it as a medicine. No matter the method, THC goes through your bloodstream and into your brain. And there, the THC is going to latch onto these special receptors. When they are stimulated, they release dopamine. It sends signals to various nerve cells all around your body and makes the user feel high. Not all cannabis is going to get you stoned. That's because marijuana contains another chemical known as CBD. That's cannabidiol. Marijuana plants that have low THC and high CBD can work really well as a medicine. They can treat things like epilepsy, pain, the ravages of multiple sclerosis, chemotherapy-induced nausea, all sorts of different things. It works because the CBD chemical can quiet excessive electrical and chemical activity in the brain. I know this 3-year-old girl who went from having 300 seizures a week to 2 per month after her parents gave her cannabis with high levels of CBD. When it comes to marijuana, there's some 500 different chemical compounds. All these compounds work together. It's something known as the entourage effect. It's important because you can't just take a chemical out of marijuana and make a medicine. You need the whole plant, especially when it comes to using pot instead of pills.
The entourage effect and the whole plant effect of cannabis shortly. But first of all, as I mentioned earlier, the 5-HT2AR receptor is what connects with cannabinoids. So the CB1 and 5-HT2AR is the main reason why cannabis is known as a psychedelic. And it works on the endocannabinoid system, which has only been discovered really in the late 80s. It is the master regulator in creating balance across the many body systems. Homeostasis is really important. There are 2 parts of the endocannabinoid system, the CB1 and the CB2 receptors. CB1 is found throughout the body, but predominantly in the brain, lungs, muscles, GI tract, liver, pancreas, and the bone marrow, where CB2 works particularly well with the immune system, skin, liver, also pancreas, spleen, and bones. Basically, we are built for cannabinoids, hence having an endogenous cannabinoid system. And cannabinoids don't work alone. They work as what we call the entourage effect. And I have seen this in very clear experiences throughout my career. Cannabinoids include not just THC, but CBD, CBDV, THCA, THCV, CBG, and far more. And they all have very interesting ways of working on different parts of our being. CBD, as I said, is the predominant balancer. It modulates and balances the effects of THC. It's not psychoactive, but can be deeply therapeutic with anti-anxiety and anti-inflammatory symptoms being affected. The other minor cannabinoids that I particularly like are CBN for sleeping, CBG, which is called the mother cannabinoid because it converts into all other cannabinoids, CBC for anti-inflammatory, and THCV is phenomenal for appetite suppression. But it's not just the cannabinoids either, it's the terpenes too. And actually finding the balance of terpenes for working on the entourage effect with cannabis is a critical part of this medicine. Terpenes are forgotten medicine, in fact. They are the aromatic compounds that give not just cannabis, but everything their smell. And many of the therapeutic effects come from these terpenes. I'm going to start with one, beta-caryophyllene. Beta-caryophyllene is possibly the most important of all the terpenes found in cannabis. It's the biological anchor for nervous system regulation. It's a selective CB2 agonist. So it works directly on the full receptor side. So it is extremely powerful, and it's found in many essential oils, spices, and of course, hemp or cannabis. So basically, THC It works on the CB1 receptor. CBD works on the CB2 receptor. Beta-caryophyllene also works on the CB2 receptor, but balances the use of both of those. Let's just give you maybe another real-life example of terpenes, because deeply inhaling the perfume on rose actually can increase CBD's anti-cancerous power, with scent receptors for rose oil having been discovered on various organs in the body. For example, your liver knows when you are smelling rose, and it triggers anti-cancer effects in that liver. Another advantage of the synergism created with terpenes is that it reduces the dosage of CBD you need to consume. Terpenes are powerful. There are many of them. Citronellol is the fascinating anti-cancer potential with calming antioxidant, antimicrobial properties. Myrcene apparently helps calming, sedative, and muscle relaxing. Limonene is the one for mood elevation, stress resilience, and mental clarity, as well as enhance well-being. With beta-caryophyllene and great working with humulene particularly together to support anti-inflammation. So I created this terpene chart to show a whole bunch of terpenes, their uses based upon the scientific literature, what kind of smell they give, and particularly the vaping temperatures for each of these terpenes. A very useful chart for the doctors that I work with. While we're on the entourage effects, many people make a choice whether they want an indica-based product or a sativa-based product. Now, I want to tell you that this is an outdated model because they're not therapeutic indicators at all. They don't affect you in a particular way, because it's more like saying there's a black side or a white side. But actually, when there's a rainbow color of spectrums of effects with cannabis. So the clinical reality is that we actually measure chemovars, not indica or sativa. And with compounds, with over 400 chemical compounds found in cannabis, there are so many differences between the different types. And it's more the land race strains that make a difference with cannabis. So you may have heard of Durban poison from South Africa, Hindu Kush from Afghanistan, or Acapulco Gold from Mexico. These all give very different effects on the body, and they all come because of their entourage effect. Now that's enough of cannabis science, because I want to move to our main focus of how and what is a psychedelic. So cannabis is defined under the Oxford English Dictionary psychedelics are defined as drugs that induce changes in the levels of consciousness of the mind, most simply. But the scientists of our world mainly consent to the fact that psychedelics are compounds with appreciable serotonin 2A receptor agonist properties that can alter consciousness in a marked and novel way. So cannabis, as we've heard in the science, absolutely is in the definition of a psychedelic. So before we get really into the details of cannabis, we just want to recognize that there are many forms of cannabis. Now, most of the THC is found on the plant in the flowers, but the flowers can be produced into oils, or the terpenes or the trichomes can be pressed into hash, or pressed into resins. Or anything can be made into edibles or topicals. And there are many ways to consume cannabis. You can see the sadhu here just next to me is using an ancient old clay chillum pipe, which is how I learned to smoke hash when I was growing up. The vaporizer above is now the modern German technology method of making sure that we burn at an exact temperature, so we know exactly what terpenes we are getting off without burning the material. So we are vaporizing the material. So that's my preference in how we consume the medicine with natural flowers in a volcano. Now, although I really do not promote smoking, and I do not smoke myself anymore in any form, I would bring to your attention that the results confirm, this is a quote from the professor of the UCLA Pulmonary Function Laboratory, okay, basically focused on breathing and lungs, says that many previous studies of marijuana smoking had a protective effect on the lungs. Now again, not promoting smoking at all, but it just goes to show you what we learn is sometimes not connected to the actual facts. And facts are really important when it comes down to safety. So when we're talking about cannabis and psychedelics and safety, let's start with history.
These high school boys and girls are having a hop at the local soda fountain. Innocently they dance. Innocently they dance. Of a new and deadly menace lurking behind closed doors. Marijuana, the burning weed with its roots in hell. In this film, you will see the ease with which this vicious plant can be grown in your neighbor's yard. Rolled into harmless-looking cigarettes, hidden in an innocent shoe or watch case. In this startling film, you will see dopesters lure children to destruction.
We're going over to Bill's place. Why don't you come along? We have a date to play instead of double. We have a date play anytime. Come on,
the dopesters are wearing
Can I go along with you? Sure. Hey, I'll see you at dinner, sis.
You want a good smoke? Try one of these.
You will meet Bill, who once took pride in his strong will as he takes the first step toward enslavement.
Of course, if you're afraid.
So apparently cannabis leads to enslavement. See how this normal guy here decides
Smoking the soul-destroying reefer, they find a moment's pleasure, but at a terrible price. Debauchery, violence, murder, suicide.
Here we really get there. Oh, jumping out of a building. I've never seen anyone do that on cannabis.
And the ultimate end of the marijuana
I
addict.
feel like that before we have cannabis.
Hopeless insanity.
So there are many scientific facts that are not true in this video. I think we will all agree.
See this important film now.
This is the history
Before.
of what we've been told and the stigma we talk. About before. In modern times, a recent president of the Australian Medical Association was quoted as saying real cannabis is not safe and that Australians need synthetic chemicals. Now, I'm not sure who you want to believe, whether you want to believe this kind of guy or you want to believe a professor of psychiatry at Harvard University who says that there are no deaths from cannabis use anywhere. You simply can't find one. So cannabis is not focused, or it doesn't give you direct forms of death in comparison to nearly anything else. In fact, cannabis is literally safer than water. I wrote a paper on this once because people didn't believe how safe cannabis could be. But safety is not just physicality. Safety is in our total vessel, and it is the boundaries that make expansion possible within safety. So some people have said for the first time in their lives, the anxiety wasn't just managed, it was gone. Finally feeling a profound sense of safety simply existing with the own physical body. Another quote from someone who's had a cannabis psychedelic experience is the past experiences have been powerful and insightful, but often harsh on my nervous system and physical body. I had preconceived ideas and associated cannabis with feeling stoned and spacey. There was nothing like that. It was clear and vibrant with visuals that guided me through my intentions. I had agency to keep in certain visuals or move out as needed. This therapeutic psychedelic has great value for mental health diagnosis and anyone wanting to take a deeper look into their own consciousness. So if a psychotherapist can say this about cannabis psychedelics, I wonder what would happen if you have this experience. Well, let's talk about what a regulated somatic journey looks like with a cannabis-assisted psychedelic therapy. So, first of all, again, we start with preparation. That's where we establish the baseline of safety. And after you get introduced to cannabis psychedelics and want to move forward, we'll start with a comprehensive medical and psychological screening. it is important to establish the deep trust between both the facilitator and the patient, both ways. And part of that preparation is defining clear intentions, what you expect to get from the journey ahead. Of course, if there are some absolute contraindications to people having cannabis psychedelic experiences, and these require careful screening, which is from one of a trained facilitator. Moving to the mindset, the internal set, how you feel, assessing emotional readiness to regulate the nervous system, stress and anxiety, and cultivate a clear, loving intention. Now, this is critical before moving forward with a cannabis psychedelic experience. And if your facilitator doesn't feel that you're qualified quite yet, they may pause the experience at this point or any point moving forward. But as well as the internal mindset, there's also the external mindset, having a calming, controlled space with clinical level cleanliness, but with warmth and safety in a private and uninterrupted and focused space. Now, many medical clinics believe that a hospital setting is good enough for this, and putting a picture of nature is fine for you. I don't believe so, which is why I offer cannabis psychedelic experiences at my home, where people can come surrounded by nature, feeling comfortable with freshwater pools and spas and saunas, and having these natural experiences where they will not be interrupted and are connected with nature, yet in a clean, safe room inside. Of course, the actual experience happens, and it's not so dose dependent. Most people think that, well, to have a cannabis psychedelic experience, you need massive amounts of cannabis. Well, that's not true. You just need a small amount of the cannabis medicine, which has been prescribed to you by a doctor, and that will be enough for you to connect with the plant spirit. Of course, the patient will need to navigate their own inner world using the agency dial that they have with this particular medicine, moving in or out of the experience, going deeper or more intense or less intense as they may choose. The facilitator simply holds that space, allowing safe processing to unfold, ensuring safety is the key. All this starts with ritualistic connections to nature, focusing on the directions, north, south, east, west, above, below, inside and outside of ourselves, and is supported by breathwork and absolute mindfulness throughout the entire process. A cannabis psychedelic experience is usually held on a vibroacoustic sound bed. This is a bed that we have developed with our friends in Colorado who have produced a number of transducers that allow frequencies, low frequencies, to go through the body. So you feel fully immersed in the sound journey experience. And this is really important. I believe that vibroacoustics is the future of medicine. This is not required for a cannabis psychedelic experience, but certainly allows you to turn up the dial to get full healing as much as possible. Why does it work? Well, we're mostly water. And water is easily programmed through vibrational frequency. And it's not just sound, but we can also use light to do the same thing. Light at different frequencies can also be put into certain ways into your body to actually provide and target specific healing. But cannabis is the medicine. Cannabis is the heart of this. And I have learned over time that there are many types of cannabis, over 2,000 in fact, available in Australia. And if you go to a clinic to get hold of some cannabis, you may find it not so easy to work out which types of cannabis you need. And yes, it's really easy to get prescriptions these days. You can just book an appointment, visit a doctor, whether it's by telehealth or in person, and receive your medicine shipped to your door these days. But it is the doctor that actually decides what kind of medicine that you need. And to do that, you need to use specific analysis of who you are, because everyone needs specific types of cannabis. So finding your cannabis is part of what a professional doctor will do to find the particular types of flowers or other medicines that might be suitable for you. to ensure that you're getting the right THC CBD ratios, the right terpene match for who you particularly are. So it is really important to get your medical cannabis prescribed properly from doctors who really care. So what does it feel like? Again, many people have said that they gain deep insights through old memories, having their lives changed forever. And where medicine comes on as strong as ayahuasca with visuals similar to DMT. And then there's grounding. Grounding calms the baseline and attenuates the neuroinflammation. It shifts the autonomic balance back toward the parasympathetic dominance. So we're supporting the rest and digestion part of recovery. This is critical and often happens by just simply getting your feet into the ground. Okay, and it's the first part of integration. But integration is an ongoing process, and it is about making meaning of the experience, but beyond the surface. Using somatic practices to sustain this and to bridge your insights that you get from this special place into your daily life is absolutely critical. One of the most important ways to do that is through journaling. The science behind journaling is absolutely key, and we incorporate into the cannabis psychedelic experience deeply. We're not looking to offer people just another ceremony of unaltered state where they may feel one with everything. And although that can be useful for a lot of people, it's really the integration support that is absolutely critical. So people are no longer just waiting for pills to fix them. You know, that someone said, this work awakened me to my own awareness, allowing me to step in as an active participant in my own deepest healing. And these are the kind of things that actually keep healing real. So the future of medicine, I believe, is actually conscious. So consciously changing your own lives and your own habitual pathways. So if you're feeling that the call to adventure is here, and you're feeling like experiencing the healing and holding space, then there is a legal, accessible, and evidenced method for you to look at. Again, this 4-hour journey of a cannabis psychedelic experience includes the setting in and setting your intention, 2 1-hour guided sessions of sound with a break in between. Throughout, you will have curated music with vibroacoustic sound therapy and more. You will have expert facilitation, grounding, journaling, and integration support. This is usually done in a one-on-one or a GOA session, and it really feels good. Reminding you, cannabis allows agency. You are in control and can stop the full psychedelic experience at any time. This cannot be said for most other psychedelics. So if you're seeking deeper healing, if you're struggling with anxiety, depression, PTSD, grief, burnout, or simply looking for more wellness or to be a better person, if you're curious about psychedelics, or you're a high performer seeking more clarity and creativity and purpose, and you are ready to do inner work, then maybe cannabis psychedelics is something for you to consider. It's not for people with psychosis or schizophrenia, bipolar, pregnancy, cardiovascular, psychiatric medicines, and we don't treat people under 21 at this time. But if you're ready to step through the doorway that serves your current journey, then we want to see you. Come and say hi, because the world doesn't need just more medicine. It needs more people capable of holding space. And we want you to learn from those who have walked this path before. And that's not just myself. Part of the faculty sharing cannabis psychedelic therapy includes psychiatrists, professors, psychologists, doctors, experienced people in all different forms from around the world, from many countries, from 4 continents in fact. It includes a Mongolian shaman, an ex-SAS breathwork course leader, ex-judge, founders of pharmaceutical companies, healers, psychiatrists, biology yoga gurus. So we have a whole range of different people offering different opinions, all focusing on the reasons why cannabis psychedelics work for you. And through this course, you will learn and experience cannabis pharmacology and terpene science, setting and somatic facilitation, safety protocols being number one, preparation, holding space, ethics, and professional practices. So if you want to come and speak with us, please come and say hi, because the plant has always known. We are only now remembering. Please take a screenshot or a picture of one of these QR codes and come and have a look at our experiences and courses. Come and visit me for tea if you're around the Byronshire area and have a chat about these things. If you're looking for a doctor consultation, if you want to have simply a sound bed experience, or if you want to access a number of free ebooks, then please connect with me here. I look forward to being in touch and moving on this journey of healing with you.